morning, Jake.
Hello, hi.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Imperial College is one of the most popular and sought after university choice amongst Hong Kong students, and I'm sure international students. So many of us parents and students are interested to hear from you, being the international officer, your perspective on the admissions into Imperial College, any latest education trends, post-COVID, post-Brexit, how are things impacting tertiary education, and in particular Imperial College. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, guys. So as I said, my name is Jake and I'm the international officer here at Imperial College London. So some of you probably have already seen me because I have been to Hong Kong to visit many schools and speaking to teachers, advisors, all over the country. Plus, yes, I'm from the marketing admissions recruitment team, so I can give you that sort of perspectives on, applications and also some of the education approaches we have introduced at college post-Brexit and COVID. So thanks very much for having me today.
Thank you, Jake. So you mentioned earlier that there's been some new announcements from the Parliament as fresh news as yesterday. Can you share with us what it's about and how does it impact international applicants?
Absolutely. So nothing drastic. So we do have some sort of clearer guidance from the government since last month, because we are sort of approaching to the Freedom Day in the UK, which is on the 21st June. But now that probably will have to be postponed depending on how the variant spreads in the country. But we have received the latest announcement from the government is that we are ready to sort of look forward to welcoming students back to the campus in autumn 2021 for a full on-campus educational experience. Obviously, that's depending on whether we are able to, have all international students on campus. But what we are doing at Imperial is that we are maximizing the in-person teaching on our campuses throughout the whole academic year from 2021 onwards, unless we're prevented from doing so by the UK government restrictions. So again, this approach will sort of make sure students will receive high quality education, but also giving them peace of mind that the teaching timetable will be flexible as well to accommodate any sort of sudden abrupt changes in government restrictions. So obviously we're doing lots of regular testing along with other safety measures that will help sort of safeguard the on-campus community, but this is only our contingency plan for the academic delivery of the program. So of course the plan can always change depending on how the sort of developing pandemic goes on later on in the month. But we are also going to publish more details and sort of further departmental information by the end of this month in June as well.
Well, that's very exciting. It seems like things that we used to take for granted is now worth celebrating. Imperial College, obviously, many of the courses you offer are science-based, if not most of them, which means practicum is something that is hugely important as part of the course delivery. So over the past year and a half, how delivery have been impacted since students can't go back to labs or to the colleges to take practicum courses?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer to that is yes, it has been very effective at Imperial. We have, it isn't sort of the perfect method for our students to do, virtual laboratory content, but it has proven far more effective than how we anticipated really. So we don't have this kind of sort of a dual delivery at Imperial. We call it multi-mode delivery because we do allow students to come on campus if they feel comfortable to do so. So we broadcast the lectures, but also recording all lectures live. So there will be small sizes classes attending lectures, for example, but also there will be a group of students listening to the lectures at the accommodation room or perhaps at home. So depending on where they are. So the delivery has actually exceeded our sort of expectation. Again, as I said, there is no perfect method. So in terms of laboratory work, we are really excited to be able to open the doors of our labs and also lecture halls. There will be a lot more, I would say, in-person deliveries when the autumn term starts this year. And we have learned so much from last year, for example, the combination of the cutting edge technology we use at Imperial and also the academic excellence resulted in a lot of new, but also creative ways of learning and engaging with each other on campus. For example, we have biology students, they have such huge amounts of laboratory content during the first year, and they are doing this using a completely different brand new technology we have sort of developed at the last minute, and to allow them to experience that laboratory experiments. And also we're sending 2 kits to students and also making sure they can match that experience as well. So all of those will be sort of complemented by other sort of in-person online elements. Of course, I don't think it's possible to have all international students to come to travel this year. Of course, there will be, a small part of the world, for example, they are from the red list, the country list. So we're probably not able to welcome those students, but so we do have this majority of students able to use the laboratory and also have that kind of in-person teaching experience.
So given Imperial College, just like many of the other London colleges, are very international, actually, can you share with us how international is the student community? And given that, what kind of policies do you have in place to safeguard the returnee students in September, October?
Sure. So we are actually the most international university in the UK, not just London. So we have been ranked number 1 and also number 5 in the world for one of the most international universities. So it's a very diverse community you guys are joining. Once you come to study at Imperial or you come to visit the Imperial campus, you will immediately realize that sort of diversity we have is also one of our strengths. Currently, I don't really know the latest figure, but from last year's data, we have 60% of students are coming from non-UK countries.
Wow.
And we have over 140 different nationalities represented on campus. So pretty much every corner of the globe, you will get to meet students from Brazil, USA, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, you name it, you will find somebody from that little corner of the globe. And it's really diverse, but also not just the student population, but also the teaching staff as well. So we have lots of academic researchers, collaborators from abroad as well. So 2/3 of academic research involves one international collaborator. So it's an incredibly international environment you guys are joining. In terms of safeguarding, as I said, possibly, practically speaking, I don't think is, advisable for every single international student to travel during this time. Perhaps when the vaccination program rolls out a little bit more, we are able to welcome more international students. So we are doing a lot of things with NHS in the UK at the moment. For example, we actually have set the policies on overseas students, basically all overseas students and visitors who are coming to England, not including Scotland, they have the access to vaccination program in the UK, so they can book their vaccination when they arrive. And also they will be doing lots of regular testing, along with other safety measures, including hand sanitizing. Pretty much every single corner of the campus, you have like a hand washing machine equipment for them to clearly, just making sure this is time to wash your hands, or, we have removed all these touch screen technologies as well. So lots of things to accommodate as well. So this is, we are doing a whole list of things. I can pretty much give you the whole welcome pack, but everyone has to is welcome to read the information on the website. But yeah, you will be having, some of the general things, face covering, social distancing as well, but of course depending on how crowded we have during that first 2 weeks of the term.
Right, so the COVID welcome pack will probably be thicker than the Imperial College welcome pack.
For sure. They will receive hand sanitizers, face covering, at least 3 of them, washable ones, as well as a guideline from NHS, and also the information for them to book the vaccine when they arrive in the UK. And the vaccination is free of charge, of course. So for all students who have registered themselves with NHS are able to book this directly from NHS and get a jab.
No excuse. Oh, great. So moving beyond COVID, hopefully that's going to be behind us very soon. With admissions, okay, I think this is the most frequently asked questions by parents. which are the most competitive courses getting in for Imperial? Any new courses that you would want to share with us? I know, universities in the UK are becoming increasingly creative, and there are many different programs that are offered by different universities. Anything about Imperial?
Sure, of course. In terms of the new courses we have at Imperial, I think the youngest department we have is possibly design engineering, and is proving to be so popular. I personally actually want to apply because it sounds so incredibly creative and interesting. It's not just the traditional product design engineering courses. It's actually for students who are into engineering and science, but also become entrepreneurs in the future. So you can actually develop your own business ideas whilst being a scientist. So it's incredibly multidisciplinarity in that course. It's not just for students who just want to become engineers, but also you can open your horizon a little bit more to develop your skills on a variety level of scale. So that's something I find, really just different from a lot of other universities, just doing engineering only, and that's it. But for our design engineering is currently proving to be very popular, and they have just had the first graduate cohort. But actually, design engineering used to be one of those kind of like little small departments within mechanical engineering. It used to be run as like a workshop, but now has become independent. They are doing their own sort of design engineering teaching as well. So it's incredibly diverse. We have attracted so many strong candidates from all over the world. So it's definitely something worth looking into for parents and students who are into both the science, but also business humanity subjects. There will be some brand new courses coming along in 2023. This hasn't been approved, so I can't really give you anything sort of concrete, but I can review that Imperial College London is going to introduce some business courses for undergraduate students. So
that's great, because we do have quite a few very popular interdisciplinary entrepreneurship innovation masters. And for undergraduates, they can, in the past, add some management electives, but not exactly an accredited dual program, right?
Yeah, that's right. So that's usually what we are doing now. But we have, there's been conversation about it for many years. To be fair, so it isn't something brand new. But finally, we are able to sort of develop a sort of more coherent program for all students. But it isn't just like a business management course. It will be sitting within our Imperial Business School, but first time ever for Imperial to sort of introduce business-related degree at undergraduate level. So it will be a full-time bachelor course on data, economics, as well as finance.
Wow.
So it will be very diverse cohort. We are expecting to have around, I don't think we're going to have a very big intake for sure. So it will be very international. So we do know the sort of the demand from overseas countries. Students want to do this kind of, pathways, so which is why we are developing this program. So currently it is being approved by the college. We don't really know the answer just yet, but it is looking quite positive. So if everything goes well, we're going to roll out this program in 2023 for the first cohort.
So you mentioned it will be a niche kind of cohort, a relatively smaller cohort, right?
It will be very small intake, that's for sure. It won't be over 100 students, for example.
Right. But none of your courses have a large enough cohort for the application number anyways.
That's a good point.
Right. So what are your most competitive subjects? And for those subjects, how do you recruit, how do you screen students? Because all of them would have met the minimum requirement grades. Right? They would have written that personal statement, which would have been reviewed by thousands of people. They would have gotten that relatively positive reference letter, because otherwise they wouldn't be even considering Imperial. So how do you screen candidates, especially for these most competitive courses?
Yeah. So our selection process at Imperial, it is in sort of centralized system. So we have kind of blend of both decentralized and centralized admissions process at Imperial. So decisions are made by the departments. So these are the academic professors or teaching fellows who are going to teach the students they are, giving the offers to. So they kind of want to know what sort of students they are going to put up with for the next 4 or 5 years. So again, in terms of competitiveness, we do have some of the top, oversubscribed departments, for example, at Imperial, which I'm sure is already on the news or students' parents are aware of. These are computing, for example. So this is incredibly competitive and also very much in demand for a number of years. Second, I would probably say mechanical engineering. And third, I'll probably say medicine program as well, particularly with Hong Kong students. So medicine is a huge trend in Hong Kong, and also pretty much every single Hong Kong student I have personally engaged with wants to become a doctor, and they want to be in sort of health, social care, that sort of sector, which is absolutely brilliant to hear. So aspirational. But again, as you know, the UK government has imposed the policy on medical schools across the entire UK, which means we do have a quota for international students, fee payers. So for those students, they're not able to possibly get in this year or the year they are going to apply for, just because we are only allowed to recruit 7.5% of international students for medicine programs. Mm-hmm. In terms of selection, we do use a series of hurdles. So we don't just rely on predictions or UCAS, exam grades. These ones, of course, is, as you say, these are the elements we're using for pre-screening. So we're using this as filters to find out whether these students are worth further reviewing later on during the application process. So when I say hurdles, normally students will have to meet the minimum entry requirement first in order for us to look at the application a bit further. So that could involve academic admissions tests. So that would be either from external exam board or internal exam board from Imperial. And once they have passed the test, they will then be invited for interview, whether that's virtual or in person. So interview stage is normally the final process and stage for us to determine the outcome of the application. But again, interview alone doesn't really determine outcome, of course. So the performance is very important, but we do want to know we are matching the right student to the right course. So all of those kind of like admissions hurdles we are introducing as part of selection, we are kind of, looking for reasons to accept and offer places to students. So we're not looking for reasons to reject anyone. So there will be, as you say, a lot of similar academic profiles. Students all apply with, A-star grades across the board and have very similar personal statements. That's absolutely fine. And we do understand, these qualities are very similar. You can't really change much about it. So to help us select, we are introducing, interviews, academic tests for those kind of things to distinguish between a good student and a great student. So we're looking at those kind of different traits and qualities. And there will be times when we can't really, give offers to all well-qualified students just because of the limited intake. The reason why we set a limit on the cohort and the intake is that we want to make sure we have a balanced student-to-staff ratio. We don't want to get anyone sort of or department overly subscribed just because they are very popular. So we need to make sure students are enrolled to the course, they are going to enjoy the process as well as zero fail. So we want to make sure that the cohort is proving to be strong and stronger year after year, which is why we have a very small intake compared to a lot of other universities. Plus, Imperial is a specialist. So we are not like a multi-faculty university. So we are kind of deliberately small and medium-ish as a size. Yeah.
Well, definitely highly specialist, because even engineering, you can't do general engineering. You have to choose different subsets of engineering. So students really have to have that kind of like a little bit more mature understanding of the discipline before they even apply to Imperial. So many students choose Imperial, of course, because of the academic standing, ranking, teaching quality, but also because of the location in London, central London. So how does Imperial leverage London to make the courses or the university life or their learning even more rich at undergraduate level?
We're really fortunate to have London, as a location to have our campuses. We have more than 9, actually currently 10 campuses in London across the whole city. So you have our main campus in South Kensington. If you have been to London, you probably have already been to Imperial, because we're surrounded by 3 world-class museums. You probably have already been to one of those, and you must have already been to Imperial. In terms of the location, we are really fortunate because we are attracting so many students from overseas. They want to have the life at Imperial, but also a student life in London, to actually enjoy the city as well. London is vastly different from the rest of the UK, I have to say. Living in London is a completely different story compared to students.
It's much more expensive, right?
I wouldn't say that, actually.
Really?
I mean, living standards are higher, that's right. But in terms of student cost or budgeting, it isn't that much more compared to Oxford, Cambridge, I have to say. And I actually met one of those graduates from Cambridge last couple of years ago in Tokyo. I was speaking to him. First thing he said is, I do wish I went to London instead, because Cambridge was so expensive as a student. And he obviously had friends who were studying in London at Imperial at the time. And he said, I just can't believe how much cheaper they are, they are spending in terms of the monthly cost and everything. There are ways to budget, but also there are ways to save. But living in London doesn't mean you are living in the most expensive city. If you look at the latest statistics, London doesn't even feature at the top 10 expensive cities to live in.
Really? Wow.
Number 1, I believe, is Singapore, and number 2 is Hong Kong is number 5 in the world. Number 2 is Tokyo. So London doesn't even feature in the top 10. So really, it is expensive because of the living standards, but I'll probably say housing can be very expensive compared to many other places because of the city we have here. We don't have lots of resources for building houses, for example. So that's why the housing market, the price can be a little bit higher compared to other regions, but doesn't mean, it's the most expensive city to live in. Obviously, as a student, you get discounts pretty much everywhere you go. With your Imperial student ID card, you can go to free exhibitions, discounts for clothing, restaurants, cocktail bars. So all of those things for an enjoyable student life as well. Of course, living in London really puts students at the heart of the action in the world's best student city. So you probably have already seen this on the QS ranking. London is currently the best student city in the world. So that's been ranked, I think, the 3rd year for the 3rd year in a row. So London has been really great in terms of, a city to work in, but also living as a student.
So Imperial College is consistently ranked top, whether it's just university in general or in particular for sciences. What do you think is the reason behind that? Is it because the rigor of research that goes on? Is it facilities? Is there any plan for expansion? What's your thought about Imperial being able to maintain such standing so consistently?
Well, I think the ranking is one of those things you have just to take as a pinch of salt. I mean, of course, it's based on the academic reputation, but also the academic standards, research impact. So there are lots of different benchmarks. If you look at the different league tables, you will see the fluctuated ranking going on. But as you said, we have always been consistently ranked as top 10, both in the UK and in the world. So we are keeping that sort of consistency, but also means we are competing with many other top performers in the world, including MIT, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, those kind of universities, including Oxford, Cambridge, of course. So we have very similar teaching standards and also student, certification rate. But obviously that can fluctuate year by year because of the political, social, economical situations we have. But, from my personal point of view, first of all, I'm really proud to represent a university that's being, ranked really well regarded, both in the world and in the country, but also as a graduate from Imperial myself. When I studied at Imperial, I certainly realized that these teaching standards and the learning approach were so different from some of my friends who were studying in a different university. So, the way we were taught, and also the way lecturers and professors were explaining things to us, they were so sort of more coherent compared to many other kind of universities. We don't have that kind of generalized teaching standards. So that could be the recipe, the secret recipe behind the success. But it kind of one of those things. You realize, you are actually from, one of the best universities in the world, and this is something we're really proud of, and also we're dedicated to maintaining as well. So, yeah.
So are there any, I remember back in our days, at least at Oxford, Cambridge, there are some exchange programs with US universities. Does Imperial have any exchange programs with US or other part of the world?
Yeah, we do. We currently, actually, it's the third year in a row now. So we have this exchange scheme program with MIT. So there are 10 different departments at Imperial who are participating in this. So basically means students from MIT, Imperial, they can do exchange from both sides. So vice versa, students can do Imperial degree from MIT as well. So we don't just focus on USA partnerships. So of course we have a lot of different collaborators around North America. For example, University of British Columbia is one of our partners as well, and also University of Toronto. Also in Hong Kong, we have Hong Kong Science Technology University as well in Hong Kong. That's also one of our partners, as well as University of Hong Kong. And also Seoul National University in South Korea, University of Tokyo, and Kyoto universities. So those are our, global partners. So there will be exchange programs, but that's kind of depending on the sort of the places and spaces we have during the year. So even though we are collaborating on the academic level, doesn't mean students are guaranteed to participate, because of the competition is so fierce every year. So the spaces are very limited. So not every single student is guaranteed this kind of placement.
So this may not be news because I think it's been going on in the UK for a few years now, this news, but it's hit Hong Kong parents recently. And some have been asking about contextualized offers. Many universities in the UK are offering contextualized offers to underrepresented regions of schools or students for a good cause to equalize the education landscape. But how does that impact applicants in general, and in particular for international applicants?
Contextualized offers aren't a new thing. This has been sort of existing since 2012, I believe. So this is something quite I would probably say one of those classic, things we all talk about for people who work in higher education. One thing I normally say, whether you are from, very good school or state school or grammar school, whatever school you're coming from at Imperial, we always prioritize academic standards. So we believe, I definitely have worked through different years at Imperial. I can pretty much say anyone who wants the opportunity to study or have the access to a high quality education, regardless of the socio-economic background, we give that opportunity to students. For example, we have so many departments at Imperial, and also including the widening partnership participation team at Imperial as well. So we're really committed to increasing this proportion of students that join us for the degree from underprivileged backgrounds. So we have introduced a lot of proactive changes to our admissions process to make sure that we give all our applicants a fair chance at the success. So we introduced, for example, scholarships and support schemes at Imperial within the department as well as the college-wide. For example, in 2020, last year during the pandemic, we received a generous amount money from the family of Alexander Cross to enable us to widen participation in summer placements for students who have overcome, barriers in accessing studying with us. The family, they have funded 2 generous scholarships for undergraduate students at the Department of Chemistry, in addition to providing funds to support the research scheme as well. So, those kind of money and funding opportunities are coming from external bodies, but we are receiving this kind of support. And also within our college, we also have this kind of scholarship support scheme to assist students with financial hardships, of course. So there will be some time away until we see the real miracles happen to allow every single student to be, having that kind of access to high quality. But we are definitely on the right track, and we are seeing some really good results that we are, in this kind of scheme and helping students, at a fair chance. It's something we are doing, and it's definitely something we are going to continue doing in future years. Contextualized offers again. This is something they shouldn't worry about at all, because when you have the grades, when you have the academic capability, you're ready. So
you also mentioned you want to keep the college wants to keep the college being relatively mid-sized so that you can keep the quality of teaching. But given the great initiative of providing more access to underrepresented students, and also just seeing the sheer number of applicants from overseas also increasing over the years, surely the competitiveness is rising in general for both local and international students, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So particularly in recent years, it has been more sort of obvious. We have seen such, high level trends just coming from, say, certain countries, including China, USA, also increasing number of students from South America applying to the UK, which is great, of course. But it isn't something we were used to. We have seen majority of students, coming from particular countries, and now, every year we have seen a new trend of different cohorts coming to the UK as well as Imperial, of course. So it's something new for sure. And we're also really excited about it. We don't want to sort of be stuck in the rut, and we want to be, out of the comfort zone to kind of offer that experience to students from all over the world.
You will have to open more branches all over the world in order to take on all this demand.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we are not planning on setting up any overseas campuses at the moment, but yeah, who knows? Things might change in a couple of years. But I know Oxford, for example, they have recently set up a new campus abroad, which I'm not really know the full details of, but I read something on the news. But yeah, it could be something we could do, particularly, due to Brexit or, funding restrictions and things like that. So we might do that, but I don't think it will happen in short term.
Yeah. So very last question then. Any advice to parents or students applying to Imperial these few years? I know there's been some inconsistency over the past 1 or 2 years across most universities, given the cancellation of exams. Some of the grades based on school-based assessments may have been inflated, and some universities have admitted that they had to take in larger cohorts, and therefore impacting this year and next year's cohorts of applicants. Is that what you're seeing as well? And what kind of advice do you have for students?
I mean, it's definitely a new thing to us. I mean, we don't expect the pandemic to continue much longer. I mean, it may stay with us for many years, but I think we are going to return to some level of normality in 2022 for sure. This year, we're already gradually, making progress. The advice I would give to students and parents is concentrate on what you can achieve. as an individual. So it's so important to know what you want and what you want to achieve out of your school exams or curriculum you are studying towards at the moment. Whether you are going to study abroad or stay in your home country, you need to make sure you have the level of concentration on what you want to achieve when you finish that process. So if you do want to come to study at Imperial, I would definitely say make sure you are mentally prepared for a very specialized teaching sort of methods we are going to introduce you, but also a very focused environment as well, because we are kind of, specialized, and also we are one of the specialist institutions, in the world, really. So you are going to study with students who are coming from all different backgrounds, but also academically speaking, they're all equally bright. So very, capable candidates. So you need to make sure you are able to put yourself in that position to be ready for the studies you're going to face in a couple of years' time, but also, to be able to find the support as well. So one thing I do realize from, particularly students from Hong Kong is that, when it comes to study during the first years, they're very shy in terms of, and timid from asking for support. They kind of, suffer alone or in silence. So it's not something we kind of want to see, from the kind of course, we know, it's very daunting, overwhelming to move from a foreign country to London to study, and you're in a completely brand new environment as well. But one thing I don't normally say is always ask and also seek for help, because we are here to provide you and make sure you are going to have an enjoyable experience once you are here. But yeah, that's probably my advice. Make up your time, make most of your time at the school, and also find support and ask questions when you come here. And we are going to provide you that sort of experience you want. Of course, we're trying to match your expectations. It isn't going to be perfect. That's one thing I can guarantee. You're not going to have a perfect life when you come to Imperial, but it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, don't idealize the university. Many times students might think, getting to the university is the end goal, when they actually realize it's only the beginning of the next chapter of life. You have to graduate.
Absolutely. You have to graduate. You also have to network. You have to have your own circle.
That's really interesting, because in London, it's not so much of a campus university. I guess the whole of London is your campus. So actually actively going out to network and meet people is actually quite important, especially when it comes to potential job search, right? I mean, students in London do have that advantage, being close to corporate. But does Imperial help them as well?
Yes, we actually have a dedicated department for that. So allocating students to these different networking events, opportunities, but also introduce students, what's going on campus as well. So we do attract a lot of employers, have the on-campus events as well, in normal years, by the way. In traditional years, we have had, I think every year we normally host about 10 to 15 career fairs on campus, including some of the biggest names in the industry: Microsoft, Google, IBM, GSK, Barclays, the BBC, ITV, all of those big names and employers. And actually they will come to actually Amazon. That was before pandemic. They were on campus just speaking to our graduates, and also graduates to be basically speaking to students on campus, introducing the positions they can apply for, and some of the quality they are looking for, particularly from Imperial graduates, because they trust the quality of the graduates, which is why we are sort of number one in the UK at the moment for graduate prospects, because we are highly targeted by these big employers. So networking, yes, but also graduate prospects are very important, not just the league tables, looking at, academic reputation, but also looking at future going forward. What can you do with your degree in engineering or medicine, whatever you choose, whether you are in a good job market for that.
Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for your time today. We covered a lot of different grounds, and you have also given us a perspective from an international officer perspective and an alumni perspective. So we look forward to sending you even more qualified students and giving you the headache of screening out the best of the best. So thank you so much, Jake. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome. All right. See you soon. All right. Bye for now.